Thank you so much, dear devotees, for joining us here on Zoom, Facebook, as well as on YouTube. We are going to get started in a moment after these brief prayers to the spiritual master. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapad Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Dalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Okay, so let's get started with our Bhagavad-gita class. So which verse are we going to do? And Hare Krishna, Sukumala Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
And
we are going to do 7.22, I think.
7.22 for 500 points. Yes. So I might have to step away for a few minutes here to take care of something in the home. But
yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we know which verse we are going to do, let us just share that verse here. tayā śraddhayā yuktas tasyārādhanam īhate tasyārādhanam īhate labhate tataḥ kāmān mayaiva vihitān hitān tayā śraddhayā yuktas tasyārādhanam īhate labhate tataḥ kāmān mayaiva vihitān hitān tayā śraddhayā yuktas tasyārādhanam īhate labhate tataḥ kāmān mayaiva vihitān hitān tayā śraddhayā yuktas tasyārādhanam īhate labhate tataḥ kāmān mayaiva vihitān hitān. So we have been talking about people going to the demigods to ask for things, right? And in the last verse that we did last week, what was Krishna telling us in text 21? It was very, very musical verse. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktaha śraddhayā
chitam ichati tasya janam śraddham tameva vididami aham.
He was saying, I am in everyone's heart as a super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his face steady so that he can devote himself to that particular demigod or that particular deity of the demigod.
Yeah.
Okay? So here now he's saying tayā śraddhayā yuktas tasyārādhanam īhate labhate cha tataḥ kāmān mayaiva vihitān hitān. So saha means he, tayā with that, śraddhayā inspiration, yuktaḥ endowed, tasya of that demigod, ārādhanam for the worship, īhate, he aspires, labhate, obtains, cha, and tataḥ, from that, kāmān, his desires. Mayā, by me, eva, alone, vihitān, arranged, he, certainly, tān, those. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these desires are bestowed by me alone. Okay, so I'll take a break over here, and what I want you to do is go one by one. I think we have 4 of us here on the call, starting with in the order of appearance: Kiran Goyal Mataji, Varshana Mataji, Sukomal Radhe Mataji, and Karima Mataji. So just recite this verse, okay? And I'll be right back in a few minutes. Come on, I'm hearing.
Kiran Mataji, go.
And if you can't, then the next one, please take it.
Varshana Mataji, go.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Tayā śraddhayā yuktas tasyārādhanam īhate labhate tataḥ kāmān mayaiva vihitān.
Tayā śraddhayā yuktas tasyārādhanam īhate labhate tataḥ kāmān mayaiva vihitān.
तयā श्रद्धया युक्तस् tasyārādhanam īhate labhate ca tataḥ kāmān mayaiva vihitān.
Hare Krishna Mataji, can I read?
Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. Tayā śraddhayā yuktas tasyārādhanam īhate labhate ca tataḥ kāmān mayā vihitān.
Varshana Mataji. Varshana Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, 1 minute, sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Tayā śraddhayā yuktas tasyārādhanam īhate labhate ca tataḥ kāmān mayaiva vihitān.
Tayā śraddhayā yuktas tasyārādhanam īhate labhate ca tataḥ kāmān mayaiva vihitān.
Tayā śraddhayā yuktas tasyārādhanam īhate labhate ca tataḥ kāmān mayaiva vihitān.
Hare Krishna.
Everybody got it?
Shraddhayā yuktas tasyārādhanam īhate labhate ca tataḥ kāmān mayā vihitān.
Okay, she's back. Okay.
Tasyārādhanam īhate labhate ca tataḥ kāmān mayaiva vihitān.
All right, so let's continue. Nice. Everybody got a chance to read?
Yes.
Right? Okay, good. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got 2 times.
Very good. That's so I thought. Garima, did you also get 2 times?
Yes, Mataji, 2
Okay,
times.
good. All right, so let's go and look at the word meanings here. Saha means he, tayā, with that. Śraddhayā, inspiration. Yuktaḥ, endowed. Tasya, of that demigod. Ārādhanam, for the worship. Tathe, īhate, he aspires. Labhate, obtains. Cha, and. Tataḥ, from that. kāmān, his desires, mayā, by me, eva, alone, vihitān, arranged, he, certainly, tān, those. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, endowed with such a faith, he worships a particular demigod. So who has endowed him that faith? Endowment means what?
To get something.
To get something, right? So who gives it? Endowed with such a faith. So it means he got the faith, right? Who gave him the faith?
Krishna.
Krishna, right? So endowed with such faith, he worships a particular demigod and obtains his desires. What is the word for desire in Sanskrit?
Kāmān.
kāmān.
But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The demigods cannot award benedictions to the devotees without the permission of the Supreme Lord. Yeah. The living entity may forget that everything is the property of the Supreme Lord, but the demigods do not forget. So the worship of the demigods and achievement of desired results are due not to the demigods, but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by arrangement. The less intelligent living entity does not know this, and therefore he foolishly goes to the demigods for some benefit. But the pure devotee, when in need of something, prays only to the Supreme Lord, asking for material benefit. However, is not a sign of a pure devotee. A living entity goes to the demigods usually because he is mad to fulfill his lust. This happens when something undue is desired by the living entity and the Lord himself does not fulfill the desire. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one who worships the Supreme Lord and at the same time desires material enjoyment is contradictory in his desires. Right? In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one who worships the Supreme Lord and at the same time desires material enjoyment is contrary in his desires. Devotional service to the Supreme Lord and the worship of a demigod cannot be on the same platform. Why? Because worship of a demigod is material and the devotional service to the Supreme Lord is completely spiritual. For the living entity who desires to return to Godhead, material desires are impediments. A pure devotee of the Lord is therefore not awarded the material benefits desired by less intelligent living entities who therefore prefer to worship demigods of the material world rather than engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Okay, so let's stop here and let us take some reflections on what we have heard so far today.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, I mean, you will say that I'm a fool, biggest fool on this earth. But one thing comes to my mind, Mataji, when it comes to demigods, that Ma Lakshmi, she is Lord Krishna's, she serves him all the time. And thanking her that, thank you, Mom, for blessing me with, for blessing me in abundance, the material things, but I want, I wish for the service at the lotus feet of the Lord and kindly give me that. And another thing too, I mean, from the very childhood, Mataji, I have been doing this to Saraswati Ma, that Ma, you have been very kind towards me. You have helped me to study and appear in the exams, and every time you passed me in the exam. And now I request you to bless me that I keep on listening to the lectures of my Guru Maharaj and study the scriptures and understand and apply in my life. Is this wrong to ask both of them? Though I know Krishna is the one who gives, but at the same time, Mataji, something which, I mean, you started at the age of 5 or so, and then, you see, it is not going out of my life, Mataji. I just, whenever I pray, it automatically comes out of my mind, of my mouth.
So if you, good question. Actually, when you read the Brahma Samhita, right? And so we hear about divine Saraswati.
Yes.
Right? So there are two Saraswatis, or two kinds. One is the material Saraswati, who will make you good at trigonometry and calculus and history and economics. And the other is the divine Saraswati, who is going to give you divine knowledge. Right? And so when you are praying to the goddess, right? Maybe you never made the distinction and you just did it to Saraswati, not knowing which Saraswati you are praying for, right? But going forward, now that you've heard, right? Now that you heard, then you should take the right measures. Okay? So, like they say that in the beginning, we are unconscious of our incompetence. Like we do not know that there are two types of Saraswati, right? And then we become consciously incompetent. Means that we know there are two kinds of Saraswati, but we are not doing anything about it. Right?
We are not what, Mataji?
We are not doing anything about it, making that distinction in the mind, right? So we have to go to the stage where we are conscious, and then we are competent also, right? So consciously being competent will be that every time you sit down, you'll have to remind yourself like, oh yeah, Shraddha Mataji told me this, but now I'm going to pray. I better be careful which Saraswati I'm praying to, right? And then after some time, you'll become unconsciously competent, which is, it'll become a nature for you. You won't even have to remind yourself whenever you're praying to Saraswati, it will be to the divine Saraswati only, right? Like that. So it is not, well, if we take the story of Dhruv Maharaj, right? So Dhruv Maharaj's story we know, but we never tire of hearing it again, right? So Dhruv Maharaj his father had two wives, Suniti and Suruchi.
Yeah.
He was the son of Suruchi, and Suniti was the more beautiful and younger and the favorite of the king. So one day she was sitting with her husband, and her child was, what was the name of her child?
Uttam.
Uttam was sitting and on his father's lap. And then Dhruva, being a small child of 5 years old, also wanted to go there and sit on the lap of his father. And then the stepmother, spoke some very harsh words to him, like, you do not have the privilege or the right to sit on your father's lap. If you want to really sit on his lap, then you should be born through my womb, right? And then what was the reaction of Dhruv Maharaj? Dhruv Maharaj gets very, very, very hurt. And then after hurt, anger also follows in some cases. And in this case, it did, because he was a Kshatriya. And he goes to his mother and complains about this, that this is what my stepmother said to me. And the mother actually opens his eyes to reality and says, yeah, that is the reality, because I don't have any position in the court. So then he wants to know, like, who can set it right? And he was very unhappy. And he said, so I want to have a kingdom which is better than
Brahmaji.
Yeah. Not only my father, Uttanpad, but my great-grandfather. Uttanpad was the son of Manu, and Manu was the son of Brahma. So my great-grandfather, I want that. And then he goes away. So the mother says, oh, you know what? This is something only God can give you. And this guy, the lotus side can give you. And he doesn't know anything. So then he asks his mother, where can I find him? where can I find God? So she says that, most of the people go to the forest to find God, so he must be there. So this little boy goes to the forest, and on his way, he's asking everybody, have you seen the lotus side? Have you seen the lotus side? Nobody has seen it, right? He's even asking the animals and all. And then on the way, he meets Narad Muni. And then Narad Muni asks him, where he's going, what he's going. He also asks the same question of Narad Muni. And I want a kingdom better than my God, better than my great grandfather. And I'm angry because my father said like that. And then he tries the first out. He says, you're a small child. It doesn't matter. Right? Sometimes your elders will scold you. So that's fine. Children get scolded like the whole day by their parents, but they don't hold a grudge against their parent for being scolded. So you just do like that. He was like, no. And then he tries to, provoke him, but try to, calm him down by various ways, and then, just learn how to tolerate it. Says, I know I'm a Kshatriya, I cannot tolerate. And then Narad Muni gives him the mantra to chant. And what was the mantra?
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Right. And then, so Dhruv Maharaj then goes to the forest and he chants. And then God appears to him, right? And when God appears to him, he wants to say something good to God, but he's such a small boy that he cannot speak, right? Doesn't know. And so what does the God do? God sees his situation and he takes the conch shell and touches it on Dhruv's head. And he touches it on Dhruv's head, and Dhruv suddenly gets all the Vedic knowledge. And he starts to glorify the Lord. And as part of one of the glorification, he also says that I was asking for pieces of glass, whereas, I should have asked for the diamond. So he's very, very regretful that he had asked for the wrong thing of the Lord. And the Lord doesn't take him back to Godhead. He asks him to go back and rule. And he does rule for 35,000 years, but he also says that you will live in that planet, right? And then after that, he goes back to Godhead. And so we notice that in order to reach God, there has to be an intervention of a devotee of the Lord. So we could have material desires. We could have a desire that I want to master English literature and I can go to Saraswati for that, right? But then when I move away from those kinds of desires and I want to go to a higher desire, which is I want to know about Krishna, then still, like Dhruv Maharaj, we will need a devotee in our lives who's going to guide us, right? So if we approach a demigod with that intention in mind and with that mindset, that Saraswati is a devotee of the Lord. Demigods are devotees of the Lord, right? That's what it said in the purpose also today. So as long as you have that clarity in your heart, in your mind, then the Krishna is sitting right next to your mind, in your heart. And he knows. We may not know. We might just see you as worshipping a demigod. For example, Rukmani Devi, right? She was praying to Durga. All the gopis, they prayed to whom? Katyayani, right? That was the custom to be done. They did that. But we also have to look at a devotee, a person is asking something of the demigod, but what is the end result that he is trying to achieve? Okay? So it is all about Atmendriya Priti versus Krishnendriya Priti. Right? Why do you want to study literature? The Vedic literature. Why do you want to have the intelligence to study? What is the reason you want to do that? So if a person wants to make money after by doing Bhagavad Saptah and charging lakhs and lakhs of rupees for doing that, and wants to gain Srimad Bhagavatam knowledge and goes to a demigod, goes to Saraswati to pray, the motive is still a material motive.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody else goes and prays and wants to know about Srimad Bhagavatam because he wants to know about God and wants to know about his relationship with God and wants to know the devotees of the God, the creation of the God, the pastimes of the Lord. then it's a very different thing. Okay, so we need to keep that thing in our mind, that what is the end goal? If the end goal is to please Krishna, then everything is fine. Right?
Yes, Mataji, that is the basic aim.
That's the basic aim, yeah. As long as that is the basic aim, it's okay to take help from a demigod. Like, for example, people pray to Ganesh, right? He removes the obstacles. Right? He removes obstacles, and people pray to demigod to remove obstacles from their material life. But my question to you all is, are there obstacles in spiritual life?
Mataji, sometimes certain problems come in between in pursuing the spiritual life, because I faced many, because the family was not
I'm asking sometimes. I'm asking a question. Sometimes there are obstacles?
No, there are obstacles.
There are.
Always.
Always, yeah.
Always.
Some hindrance or the other is always coming.
Always there, right?
Yeah.
Because who's your enemy? We are sitting
The
with them.
mind.
The mind is always there. And you know what? The mind never sleeps. 24/7 talk of that.
Yeah.
Service. Right? So we are living with our enemy. There will be obstacles all the time. Maya is very powerful. She's going to give padam padam yat vipadam natesham. That's why Prahlad Maharaj says that. So if I pray to Ganesh to remove those obstacles, I'm just praying to a devotee to help me, as he would pray to a spiritual master. Now Ganesh also is not visible to us, but our spiritual master is. So that's why they say, take a spiritual master, take a guru. Like that, right? So it's not unusual, it is not wrong to pray, as long as you know the intention, because Krishna is bhavagrahi Janardhan. He knows your inner intentions or whatever we are doing. He knows. So we are like an open book in front of Krishna, he can read.
No, that though, even if we don't say, he knows my mind. So nothing can be.
He knows our mind, he knows our struggles, and he helps, right? And the classic example is that what we are seeing here in Bhagavad-gita is that in chapter 1, Arjuna was talking about not fighting the war. And some of the reasons that he gave there was that kinno bhogena rajena, war, how will I enjoy this kingdom if my cousins are all dead? So he's talking about his own enjoyment, right? Then he gets a little bit more magnanimous, and then he says, oh, what will happen to the old widows? What will happen to the old men? What will happen to the old children who will be fatherless because the fathers will be killed? What will happen to the widows? They have no male figure in their life, right? Like that. So still he's not talking about Krishna, right? So in the beginning, he's just talking about himself, or he's talking a little bit about an extension of himself, which is his kingdom, the citizens of, his kingdom, which of course was no longer his kingdom because of all that happened in Mahabharata, prior to the Mahabharata war. But then the same Arjuna, right, towards the end of Bhagavad-gita says, Karishyami tava vacha, I will do as you say. And he goes and fights the war, but this time he's fighting the war not for himself, but he's fighting the war for Krishna, right? In the beginning, he refuses, and he does exactly the same thing, but because the equation has changed. Originally, he was denying it because he thought the war was for himself. Later on, when he realizes that Krishna has come to this earth, paritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya cha duskritam. So that vinashaya of the duskritam is only going to happen when this war will be held, right? All the bad elements will be destroyed in the war. So when he realizes that, then he goes and he fights the war. So when we go and do demigod worship, we should be careful of that, right?
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Yeah,
nice explanation.
Any other reflections? Any other thoughts? Anything comes to your mind?
So in this, Mataji just mentioned a lot about desires, that they are impediments. to spiritual practice in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is something like that. But sometimes I feel like if material desires are fulfilled, then also we get motivated that it is because we are praying to Krishna, we are doing this, our material desires are fulfilled. Now we will do all more spiritual practice, we will increase, and then so that, like, we know that we should not be having material desire, but it's very difficult to remove all the desires. So we know that, okay, one step ahead we will go, and then maybe desires will be less, and we will move, progress towards Krishna consciousness. So is why, like, are material desires really bad, like, for spiritual practice? Sometimes I feel they are good also. They will help in spiritual practice.
Uh, it's again, it's a one today all are coming and asking very nice questions. You have to look at it from multiple angles, right? As the spiritual world, Vaishnav Babu was saying recently, is a tar baby. Tar baby is a baby made of charcoal, the one that you use for laying the road, right? It's a very sticky and a viscous item. So the moment you touch it, then you're stuck, right? So tar baby is something like that. You touch something, it's very difficult to get out of that entanglement. So when you have material desires and they get fulfilled, then the chances of getting stuck there are extremely high. They're extremely high because it's the nature of this material world. Everything is sticky, everything sticks, right? Like, for example, if you hear a nice Bollywood music, you just say, okay, I'm not supposed to go and, watch too much of cinema, but then you go and watch it. And it's not done there. You sat 3 hours, 2 hours in the theater, it's not finished there. You come back and then you think about it. And if there was a catchy tune, then it will play in your ears all the day for next 7 days, like that. Why? It's a tar baby. It sticks to us. Right? So that is why Prahlad Maharaj was saying, Padam Padam Yat Vipadam Natesha. So as soon as you get the money, the chances of that opulence hitting our head are very, very high. And we see classic examples of those, that when we get all these kinds of power, look at Ravana, right? Ravana just said that he did not want to die, okay? And neither being killed by animal nor man, neither morning nor evening, nor this weapon nor that weapon, right? So he ruled out everything. So after he got all this nice benediction of living a long life, he could have also lived a life like you and I, right? Live a simple life, or, just enjoy. You get some opulence, you enjoy it. But then did Ravana do that? After he got all these benedictions, he became worse, right? He went even to the Kubera, he defeated him. There were apsaras, he behaved badly with the women. That is what happens. It intoxicates us. All this opulence will intoxicate us. And that is why Krishna sometimes doesn't give us what we think we really need. For the neophytes, yes. And that is why Krishna has written the Vedas, right? Vedas, Vedanta Krit, Veda Vedeva Chaham. I am the writer of the Vedas. So all these ritualistic things, or not ritualistic, actually, the better word is all these karmakandi activities are written in the Vedas. And then Krishna says, Vedanta Krit, I am the creator of the Vedas. So if Krishna is the creator of the Vedas and Krishna has written down all these karmakandi activities, then why is he saying that these are wrong? Right? Why is he saying that? So he has done, he creates that. He creates that for those who are in the lower modes, right? Mode of passion, maybe ignorance also. And he's saying, okay, you have this desire, do it the Vedic way. And if you have to do anything the Vedic way, if you have to do a yagya, on that day you can't eat onion and garlic, right? Or he'll say you go and fast for so many days. So that will raise you to a higher level of consciousness, right? Parthiva taruno dhumas tasmat agnir traimaya tamastastu rajas tasmat sattvam yad brahma darshanam. So it says that Parthiva daruno dhumas. So better than earth is wood. Wood comes from earth, right? Similarly, better than wood is smoke, because smoke is an indication that there is fire. And better than smoke is fire. Right? Because why? Because fire is used for doing Vedic sacrifices, traimaya. Right? So, Parthiva daruno dhumas tasmat agnir traimaya tamastastu rajas tasmas. Similarly, better than tamasic is rajasic. Right? And better than rajasic is sattvic. Why? Satyam yat satyam is sattvic. Satyam yat brahma darshanam. So when your consciousness is raised to the level of sattvic, from that level only you will be able to see the Lord, Brahman darshan. So what he's saying is that, okay, you have these desires, you soul, you have got all these desires. Now there are two ways of fulfilling the desires. One is the non-Vedic way of fulfilling it, and other is the Vedic way of fulfilling the desire. So the Vedic way of fulfilling the desires is that you have to follow certain rituals, you have to pray. And when you pray and you get something, then your faith is going to increase. So it is for the lower people, right? For those of you who are already on the path of devotional service, then that is not the route, because you're already on that stage, right? Somewhere between Rajas and Sattvic, or even Sattvic also, right? So we are in that mode. So those kind of activities are not for us. You already have faith in Krishna. So you don't have to, perceive and proceed and then
Thanks,
go.
Mr. Bablu, for the best tea and snacks.
So that's why we say that don't have material desires. Material desires will be an impediment. Having said that, it'll be something very interesting to note that if a person goes after getting a better job, we will immediately nail them down and say that they are materialistic people, right? They are going after a job. They should be spending the money. But you don't know. He could be wanting to get a better job to be able to make more money, to be able to donate and build a temple or distribute books or take care of the Vaishnavas, set up a hospital for them. He could be doing anything, for wanting to do anything in pursuit of Krishna consciousness, right? So it's very difficult to, from the surface, to know what anybody is doing, what kind of thought process he has. But Krishna knows. And that's what matters ultimately. Right? Krishna knows that. So that is why they say that don't have any material desires. And Krishna will provide. Krishna will provide. In the 9th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, let me bring up some verses from 9th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, I think 20, 21, 22. Okay? Let me bring that up here. And we'll go through the very nicely, he's explaining what happens. Bhagavad-gita 9.20.
Oh, yeah, that Traividya Mamsoma.
There you go. Traividyamam soma paputa papa yagye rishtva sargatim prarthayante te punyamasadya surendra lokam ashnanti divyan divideva bhogan. Those who study the Vedas and drink the soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. How do they worship him indirectly? Those who are worshipping, study the Vedas and drink soma juice. When they are studying the Vedas, they are drinking soma juice. And what is our purpose? To achieve heavenly things. This means that they are reading the Karmakandi section of the Vedas, where there is demigod, right? They're worshipping the demigods. Okay? So he's saying, but those people who are doing that, they're indirectly worshipping Krishna only. So why are they indirectly worshipping him? Because demigods are the parts and parcel of Krishna's body.
Oh, yeah.
If you're worshipping the demigods, you're worshipping him as well, right? So here he's saying the word Traividya refers to the three Vedas, Sama, Yajur, and Rig. A Brahmana who has studied these three Vedas is called Trivedi. Anyone who is very much attached to knowledge derived from these three Vedas is respected in society. Unfortunately, there are many great scholars of the Vedas who do not know the ultimate purport of studying them. Therefore, Krishna herein declares himself to be the ultimate goal for the Trivedis. Actual Trivedis take shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna and engage in pure devotional service to satisfy the Lord. Devotional service begins with the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra and side by side trying to understand Krishna in truth. Unfortunately, those who are simply official students of the Vedas become more interested in offering sacrifices to the different demigods like Indra and Chandra. Right? Here talking about it, right? Surendra Lokam, heavenly planets, right? So Indra. So they will be worship Indra. Why worship Indra? Because Yanti Deva, Vrita Devan, Pitrin Yanti, Prativita, Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja, Yanti Majya Jinupiman. So whichever demigod you worship, you will go to that place. So you worship Indra to go to the heavenly planets. Okay. But by such endeavor, the worshippers of different demigods are certainly purified of the contamination of the lower qualities of nature. So, Garib Mamati, this is what I was just saying, right? That from the lower mode, you are rising to the higher mode and are thereby elevated to the higher planetary system of the heavenly planets known as Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, etc. Once situated on those higher planetary systems, one can satisfy his senses hundreds of thousand times better than on this planet, right? So remember, again, the senses are still being satisfied, so we are still on the material plane. But then he's telling us the results of doing such a foolish activity. He's saying, Tetam bhuktva sargalokam vishalam, shine punye martya lokam vishanti, evam trai dharma manu prapanna, gata gatam kama labhante. He's saying, when they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure, and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. One who is promoted to the higher planetary systems enjoys a longer duration of life and better facilities for sense enjoyment, yet one is not allowed to stay there forever. One is again sent back to this earth, Martya Lokam, upon finishing the resultant fruits of pious activity, Shune Punya. He who has not attained perfection of knowledge, as indicated in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadhyasya Yatha, or in other words, he who fails to understand Krishna, the cause of all causes, becomes baffled about achieving the ultimate goal of life and is thus subjected to the routine of being promoted to the higher planets and then again coming down as if situated on a Ferris wheel, which sometimes goes up and sometimes comes down. The purport is that instead of being elevated to the spiritual world, from which there is no longer any possibility of coming down, one simply resolves in the cycle of birth and death on higher and lower planetary systems. One should better take to the spiritual world to enjoy an eternal life full of bliss and knowledge and never return to this miserable material existence. Now, on the contrast, he's saying, Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janaha paripasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogashemam vahamyaham. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. Purport. One who is unable to live for a moment without Krishna consciousness cannot but think of Krishna 24 hours a day. Being engaged in devotional service by hearing, chanting, remembering, offering prayers, worshipping, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, rendering other services, cultivating friendship, and surrendering fully to the Lord. Such activities are all auspicious and full of spiritual potencies, which make the devotee perfect in self-realization, so that his only desire is to achieve the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a devotee undoubtedly approaches the Lord without difficulty. This is called yoga. By the mercy of the Lord, such a devotee never comes back to this material condition of life. Shema refers to the merciful protection of the Lord. The Lord helps the devotee to achieve Krishna consciousness by yoga, and then he becomes fully Krishna conscious. And when he becomes fully Krishna conscious, the Lord protects him from falling down into the material condition, miserable condition life. So in this verse, he's saying that if you always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So if you go back and look at the story of Dhruv Maharaj, right? He worshipped the Lord. And then in the end, how did the Lord carry what he lacked and preserve what he had? What was Dhruv Maharaj lacking?
At that time, he was lacking the kingdom. I mean, that is what he wished for.
That he wished for, right? So the Lord carried what he lacked. What did the Lord give him? Did he get a kingdom better than Brahma's?
Yes.
And what was that kingdom?
Dhruv planet.
Dhruv planet. And why is the Dhruv planet better than Brahma's kingdom?
Because it is a higher planet, one thing, and second thing, it will never be annihilated.
Yeah, that's the main thing. It's a transcendental planet where Vishnu lives, then Shir Sagar, right? So he carried what he lacked, right? And he also preserved his devotional service, whatever he had, because ultimately, Dhruv Maharaj goes back to Godhead. And so does his mom.
Oh, yes.
Right? So Lord says that I will do that. So the question here is that if he's going to carry what you lack and preserve what you have, then it is better to pray to Lord Krishna, right? And then to the demigods. Because with the demigod, I was saying last time that there is, their kripa is
Material.
material kripa, right? Their mercy is material. And there is kapat in it, right? That bhasmasura. I want to put my hand on if I put my hand on anybody's head, he should be, he should turn to ashes. So these kinds of wishes people ask, and he gave. And then ultimately, what happened to him?
He died.
Bhasmasura, he
He
himself
burnt
died.
himself.
Same thing with Ravana.
Mataji, I'm sorry. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Sorry for the interruption. I'll have to leave the class. Thank you.
No problem, Atiji. I'm glad you could join for some time.
Actually, I have come
again.
to the hospital. Brought my husband.
Oh, you were last week also, right? How were things?
He was discharged, but again, he was not well, so I brought him.
Okay,
Oh.
okay. Yeah, we'll pray for your husband.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah, take care of him. Yeah, let us do a round of Hare Krishna Mahamantra for Jyoti Mataji's Prabhu. Starting with 3, 1, 2, and 3. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare
Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Yeah, praying to the Lord Shivya that they take care of Jyoti Mataji's Prabhu, preserve what she has. Okay. Thank you so much for considering our request.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you.
So, so we were talking about the Lord carries what we lack and then he preserves what he has. And then when it comes to prayers and asking for somebody, Garima Mataji, again, continuing on with the answer to your question, is that there's a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam that says, Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradhihi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param, right? So let's bring up that verse. It is, I think, 1:3:10. Let me see if it is exactly 1:3:10 or not. It is 2:3:10 actually. Okay, so let me share my screen here with you and we'll go through this verse. Akamaha sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradhihi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desires. So, Garima Mataji, you are a classic example of a person who has a broader intelligence, because people who talk to devotional service are doing buddhi yoga. So they are definitely, their intelligence is much higher, right? The person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desires, without any material desires, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the supreme whole, the personality of Godhead. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is described in the Bhagavad-gita as Purushottama, or the Supreme Personality. It is he only who can award liberation to the impersonalists by absorbing such aspirants in the Brahma Jyoti, the bodily rays of the Lord. The Brahma Jyoti is not separate from the Lord, as the glowing sun ray is not independent of the sun disks. Therefore, one who desires to merge into the supreme impersonal Brahma Jyoti must also worship the Lord by Bhakti Yoga, as recommended here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhakti Yoga is specially stressed here as a means of all perfection. In the previous chapters, it has been stated that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. And in the same way, in this chapter, it is emphatically declared that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of the different varieties of worship of different demigods. Bhakti Yoga, thus being the supreme means of self-realization, is recommended here. Everyone must therefore seriously take up the methods of Bhakti Yoga, even though one aspires for material enjoyment or liberation from the material bondage. Akamaha is one who has no material desire. A living being, naturally being the part and parcel of the Supreme Whole, Purusham Purnam, has as his natural function to serve the Supreme Being. Just as the parts and parcel of the body or the limbs of the body are naturally meant to serve the complete body. Desireless means, therefore, not to be inert like the stone, but to be conscious of one's actual position and thus desire satisfaction only from Supreme Lord. Srila Jiva Goswami has explained this desirelessness as Bhajaniya Parama Purusha Sukha Matra Swa Sukhatvam in his Sandarbha. This means one should feel happy only by experiencing the happiness of the Supreme Lord. This intuition of the living beings is sometimes manifested even during the conditioned stage of a living being in the material world, and such intuition is expressed in the matter of altruism, philanthropy, socialism, communism, etc., by the undeveloped minds of less intelligent persons. In the mundane field, such an outlook of doing good to others in the form of society, community, family, country, or humanity is a partial manifestation of the same original feeling in which a pure entity feels happiness by the happiness of the Supreme Lord. Such superb feelings were exhibited by the damsels of Rajbhumi for the happiness of the Lord. The gopis loved the Lord without any return, and this is the perfect exhibition of the Akama spirit. Kama spirit, or the desire for one's own satisfaction, is fully exhibited in the material world, whereas the spirit of akamaha is fully exhibited in the spiritual world, right? So only when we become purely, our intents are completely pure, they are devoid, they are amal, they are devoid of any anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavritam. So they are devoid of any other type of desires, right? Jnana, karmadi, devoid of these, and anukulyena krishnanu. Have to do things which are favorable to Krishna and give up things which are unfavorable to Krishna. That is pure bhakti, that you should not have any kind of desire. Okay? We might say that the demigods are devotees of the Lord, right? And I can worship them, I can ask them, but be careful of what we ask of them. And again, like I said, that material things, material opulences, material power can corrupt your mind. And we see instances of that in Srimad Bhagavatam. We see instances of that in Srimad Bhagavatam where the mind got corrupted. Right? For example, Brahma Vimohana Leela. Brahma is super intelligent. He creates this entire world. He has got a position in this world. He's on the topmost planet of the world, like the penthouse of the universe is occupied by Brahma. He's there. So obviously he has that ego kick. And so when he sees this little little Krishna there, killing Aghasura. He comes out and he wants to test and see whether it's Krishna or not. So what does he do?
He hides in all the calves in the cave.
Right, he
And
hides
all the gopas also.
Right? And then he hides that, and then Krishna expands himself, and then, by the time he comes back, he waits for a short while to see what happens, but by the time he comes back to see what has happened, 1 year has already passed on this earth. And so, and then the rest of it is we know, right? Then he does those beautiful, he's ashamed of himself, he begs pardon, and then he says those beautiful Brahma's prayers, which are in the 14th chapter, 10, 14, 8. So that happens to Brahma, right? Then we also see the situation of Indra, right? People who have been worshipping, inhabitants of Vrindavan, they were worshipping Annakut, and they were, offering everything to Indra. And then Krishna says, no, you should not do that. And guess what? Indra becomes angry. Indra is a devotee of the Lord, but he gets angry if Indra is saying, if Krishna says that don't worship Indra, but worship Govardhan. He's a devotee of the Lord, but power corrupts you. So that is a risk of becoming an Indra. That you start doubting the very person who created you and made you a devotee and gave you this position. Right? The same Indra. Every now and then anything happens, anybody is doing some good, anybody is doing some sacrifices. For example, Prithu Maharaj. Prithu Maharaj was doing sacrifices, right? 100 Ashwamedh sacrifices he wanted to do. And when he does 99, Indra gets very worried. He says, if he does 100, then he's going to become Indra. So let me do something to stop. So what does Indra do? He comes in the vesh of a sannyasi. And he steals that horse for the Ashwamedh Yagya and runs away. And then they ask, one of the Atri rishis sitting in that same yagya. And so he sees that Indra's son has come, Indra has come and taken the horse away. So he tells to Prithu's son that, hey, go and get it. So Prithu's son starts to run in that direction where Indra has gone. But when he goes there, he sees a sannyasi with the horse. So he doesn't kill because he's not supposed to kill sannyasi. 3 times it happens like that. 3 times. And every time Indra will become a sannyasi and disappear, become a sannyasi and disappear. So it is with this act of Indra that the pseudo sampradayas have started. That people started, otherwise a sannyasi, nobody would put on the bhesh of a sannyasi. A sannyasi, you would live like a sannyasi or look like a sannyasi only if you were a sannyasi. You will never imitate a sannyasi, but Indra started this. And with that, now all these irreligions have perpetuated. Now you see so many sannyasis, right? So then when finally Prithu's son still sees that, the 3rd time he still sees that he is sannyasi, he still doesn't kill him. So then, the people get very angry, and Prithu also gets angry, and then and he wants to take out his sword and kill Indra. But then the priests tell them that, don't do that, because in this sacrificial arena, you can only sacrifice an animal. You cannot sacrifice a demigod by killing him. So he then says, okay, I won't kill him. But then the priests say that what we can do is that we are the priests. So through the mantras, we will invoke him and then we can throw him in the fire. Like that we can do. So because they were also very angry at this behavior. So then they start chanting these mantras, and then Indra is forced to come, because that's the purpose of the mantras, right? Mantras will evoke somebody, and that person has to come. So Indra then comes. And then they are very ready to go and kill Indra, but then Brahma appears, right? Brahma appears, and then he pacifies everybody. And then he also explains to Prithu that, Prithu, you were trying to get into this 100 Ashwamedha yagas, well, which is only going to get you even more material opulences. So it doesn't matter, you can stop at 99. And so this is a big lesson for all of us also, that, you know, it doesn't matter if you didn't get 100. If you ran short by 99, it is okay. It's absolutely okay, you know. Don't get into this material rat race and set, you know, goals, and then if you don't meet them, then you are upset like that, material goals. So as you can see, that demigods can also become jealous. And so when you are worshipping a demigod, then you will go to the planet of the demigod, you live with the demigod. Guess what? You are in association of a demigod. So you will learn from the demigod all these kinds of things. Right? That's why in this verse they are saying, akama sarvo kamo va moksha kama udaradhihi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham. Right? So whether you have God desires or whether you have no desires or whether you are aspiring for liberation, please worship Krishna. Right? Because even if you go here and there, those people are not actually giving you anything. And like I gave the example last time of Santa Claus. You go to Santa Claus and ask things of Santa Claus. Does Santa Claus give you? No. It's your parents who stuff the stockings for you. Similarly, Krishna is our parent, and it is Krishna who will fulfill our desires. Don't go the demigod route. It is full of danger. Like that.
Mataji, I have a question. See, Lord Indra commits so many, I don't want to say atrocities, but he stopped this Ashwamedh thing, then he poured so much rain on the whole village. So how do you explain all that?
This is what it is. Power corrupts. And so we have to also remember that all these pastimes of Krishna, all these pastimes that Krishna is doing are meant to explain something to us and are meant for us to learn something. So Indra is also actually is a soul, a devotee soul, who is also playing that particular role as an example for all of us to see that this is what can happen to you. Right? Because Indra was sitting in that in his court, and there was dance and singing, and everybody was glorifying him. The Gandharva, the Charanas, the serpent, Nagas, everybody was glorifying him. And then his spiritual master enters, and Indra does not pay respect.
Doesn't stand up.
Doesn't stand up, right? Why? Because this is what happens when you get too much. So that is why Krishna will take things away from a devotee, so the devotee stays humble.
Actually, there should not be too many opulences. They really corrupt you. It's better to be a normal, mediocre human.
Mediocre, yeah. And that is why we are in the middle planetary system, because we are in the middle. Upper planetary system, too much opulence, but there is God. Lower planetary system, even more opulence, but no God. Middle period here, there is, just sufficient opulence, sometimes even not that. But a huge opportunity for us to do devotional service.
Very nice.
So when we look at our at this philosophy, Krishna's philosophy, it is very broad-minded philosophy. If you look at some of the other philosophies, it is like my way or highway.
Or no highway.
Yeah, or no way, right? Whatever I am doing is right. If you're following my God, you're a devotee. If you're not following my God, then you are somebody else, right? You're a non-devotee. It doesn't tolerate other methods of reaching out to Krishna. But Krishna here is so magnanimous. He says that even if you worship my devotees, like demigods. He's telling you that I will give you that faith to worship that demigod, and I will influence that demigod to give it to you. Because his ultimate thing is that, okay, through that process, because you're not at that level to pray to me, but at least through that process, you'll be gradually elevated and then do some good things. And then a devotee will come into your life and who will transform your life. And then you will take to Krishna consciousness, right? But in this process where he's allowing all of us to worship the other demigods, then this means people are not going to worship Krishna, they're going to worship the demigods, right? But he doesn't feel bad about it. That is his magnanimity. So he's saying it's not that, his ultimate instructions is man mana mad bhakto madhya guru, right? His ultimate is this, but then to accommodate those who cannot do that, he's happy that if you go and worship the demigods also. He's facilitating that. But his ultimate goal is that we all come to him.
But even if we are not at that level where we can worship Krishna directly, it's okay for us to worship Krishna also, right?
Oh,
And not the
absolutely.
demigods. Yeah.
Yes. What I'm just saying is that those who don't have the mindset. I was talking to somebody this morning, and that person was telling that her husband is so against the Hare Krishnas that you cannot chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in his house. You can chant other mantras. That's okay. But not this one. Not this one. So, when such a situation is there, God is not jealous of his demigods. He's just overzealous.
Oh.
You can become jealous, right? It can happen. It has happened in life. Father and mother, father and son can become jealous of each other. If the son becomes very prominent, mother and daughter, they can fight. But Krishna is not like that. Krishna is so magnanimous. He's saying, okay, you want to worship demigods? I'll make your faith. I will make arrangements that you get it. But then he's also telling you, on the other hand, that I yoga shema vahamyaham. I will carry what you lack and I will preserve what you have. So come to me. Why are you catching stones like this? You catch me like this. It's easier.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying. And the demigods obviously are not as magnanimous as Krishna, because they're not Krishna. You'll also see demigods giving curses and things like that. You hear all that, those kind of things. So there is getting it from the cultural momentum. It is very natural for us to feel a little hesitation in giving up this demigod, that demigod. We all grew up with all demigods, right? It was like, oh, they're all gods. I grew up with the understanding that everybody is God. Ganesha is God. Durga is God. They all are God. All that. Indra is God. Brahma is God. Everybody is God. It's only that the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad-gita are teaching you the nuances of, who is Krishna, who are the demigods, right? What is our relationship with them? Like that. So it is Krishna's magnanimity that he has arranged these demigods for us lesser mortals who cannot just, live in poverty, who want the money or who want to enjoy the thing. You can do that, but in the proper way. Otherwise, later on, it is not a vidhi, it is a vidhi. Right? And in subsequent verses, sub-chapters, we'll also see that, he's saying, okay, you're worshiping a demigod, it's fine, but you're worshipping avidhi purvakam. Right? It is not in the proper manner that you're going to do it. So why do things improperly first and then come to the proper? Take the direct elevator, take the right path right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? And if you take the right path right from the beginning, then it's easier to reach your destination than if you take the wrong path in the beginning, because you're moving away from your destination. If the destination was there, you better to go like this than just to go there and then try to take a deviation and then come back again to this one, right? So better to do things right the first time. It'll be less costly in all ways, in all From all angles, it'll be like that, right? But from our side, we have that hesitation. We have that hesitation that Krishna may not protect me. Because demigods are, also because the results from demigods come very fast. Because they are bound by rules and regulations. If you chant this mantra so many times, if you do this yagya so many times, the demigod has to appear. Right? That's what happened with Kunti. She was given a mantra by Durvasa, right? And she chanted the mantra, what happened? The sun god had to come. She said, if you chant that, I have to come. So those are the laws of material nature regarding to the demigod. That they have to appear. And we have that. Any other questions? Thoughts?
But then you give such a, you say, satisfying and lecture that we feel satisfied. The other day, you see, I was listening. Listening means it just came. The phone, you see, if you turn on something to listen and it gets over and the something else starts. So some interview was coming of, there are two devotees. One is Chandralekha and the other one is I'm forgetting the name, Madhuri. And in the interview, it was asked that I believe that you charge so much for the lecture and you see lakhs of rupees. And then she said, yes, I do charge. And it's because, you see, there are musicians, so I have to pay to them also. And I have to do this, I have to make that arrangement and all that. You see, she gave the explanation. And I was just thinking that in ISKCON, everything is explained. Guru Maharaji gives us the lecture. We have the recordings. Every day we are hearing them. And so many acharyas and shiksha gurus are giving the lectures and making us understand the truth. And no charges. And they are also spending so much time and energy. And Mataji, so I felt how fortunate we are that we are in this, in Krishna consciousness, that too in International Society of Krishna Consciousness. You see, very nice. We are very fortunate, Mataji.
Yeah, that is true. And they have dedicated their lives.
They have
given
dedicated
up their careers,
their lives.
given up their careers,
Yeah. Radhesham Prabhuji, IITN, and there is another Prabhuji, he is also IITN. So many of them. In Pune, there are so many, those who did from IIT, and they have devoted their life. Amazing.
Yeah. And we are fortunate.
We are very fortunate.
Yeah.
Though I'm not intelligent, Mataji, not that way, but you see, now when I read, this some kind of love has developed for Bhagavad-gita. I really love to read Bhagavad-gita.
Yeah. And this is what happens by repeating some things over and over again.
Over and over again.
Yeah. When we go to the yatra, we always go to the same places every year in Puri, especially. So even in Vrindavan, we went to visit the same thing. And Guru Maharaj always says that, you should go there again and again to go deeper into the intricacies of the Dham and develop a relationship with the Dham. So similarly, you are developing a relationship with Bhagavad-gita, and which is a personality, right? Which is Krishna. Yeah, so now, and this is what we call as the taste is developing, right? In the beginning, you open the Bhagavad-gita, you go to sleep. Right?
True.
No reason at all. No reason. Fresh in the morning, just woke up, took a shower, sat down to read Bhagavad-gita. Sleep comes, right?
We are really very fortunate.
Okay, so then on that note of being fortunate, let's call it a day on this call. And tomorrow at 6:30 a.m.
And tomorrow also, actually, I was not sure about today also whether I'll be able to attend the class. But for tomorrow also, I think maybe the same case. I may be able to
Let's
attend.
hope for the positive. Yeah. Okay, then we will call it a day. Thank you so much for joining the
Thank
call.
you so much, Shraddha
Thank you,
Mataji.
Thank you
Mataji.
so much.
Thank you.
Very
Shraddha
interesting.
Mataji. Thank you
Very
so much.
Class today. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare
Thanks for
Krishna.
your
Hare
assistance.
Krishna, everyone.
Garima, you're looking very pretty.
Patarubhyascha kripa sindhu vacha
Patitanam
patitanam
pavanebhyo
pavanebhyo
Nivedita.
vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Agor Premanande.